The King of Fighters series has built up a lot of momentum since 1994, and King of Fighters 15 certainly keeps that going if nothing else. The latest in SNK's premier fighting games plays it safe by focusing on subtly refining the already solid mechanics of 2016's King of Fighters 14 and bringing the graphics up to a more modern standard, but never really reaches beyond that in an attempt to take the series to the next level. Because of that lack of ambition, it won't do much to grab the attention of those who don't already have eyes on the series, but for longtime fans, this is a reliable return for the King. As is tradition, KOF 15 is primarily a 3v3 fighter, though it can be played in 1v1 in casual modes, with the twist of there being no tag or assist mechanics to speak of. Instead, matches play out in a series of 1v1 duels with the winning character staying in play with a persistent health bar until the opposing team's 3 are all defeated. This means you don't get the team dynamic and synergies found in tag fighters like Marvel vs. Capcom or Dragon Ball FighterZ, but KOF still requires you to think strategically in making sure that you craft a well-balanced team from the roster of 39 characters. Since you get more bars of super meter as your team is depleted to 2 and then 1, you have to consider the order in which you place your characters. Those who can build meter but don't necessarily need it should go first, while those who excel at dealing massive damage once they've got a fully stocked set of 5 meters should be used as the anchor in the third position. It's a great and well-proven formula, and while I'll personally always prefer to only have to specialize in one character at a time as opposed to 3, King of Fighters 15's team mechanics allow for exciting matchups with great potential for comebacks thanks to its big damage combos that can essentially delete your opponent's life bar in a single combo if you have the resources for it. On a fundamental level, KOF 15 plays very much like a prettier version of KOF 14. They're both 4-button fighters with 2 light attacks and 2 heavy attacks. Both have those tricky hops and super hops that make approaching from the air hard to react to and awkward to punish. Every character in both games can roll to safely move through projectiles and close the distance. And oh boy, they both have those auto combos that people will be arguing about on Reddit threads, message boards, and social media until the end of time. Auto combos are actually even more powerful this time around, as just mashing Light Punch from close range will net you a 4-hit combo that ends with the most powerful super move your meter can afford. If you have at least 3 meters stored, that's a nearly 50% damage combo just for hammering a single button. That sounds dramatic, but even the simplest of normal combos that incorporate a level 3 super can deal more damage than that. And if you were to use KOF's trademark system of canceling supers into each other, it's very easy to leave a button masher in the dust. Still, it's an awfully big reward for a bad habit, which does more harm than good for players truly looking to get into the series for the first time. Beyond the changes to auto combos, there are 2 really big changes that keep KOF 15 from feeling like a complete retread. The first is a new universal Shatter Strike that will crumple an opponent when it hits, allowing you to extend a combo. More importantly than that though, it's a great defensive ability that can absorb hits and simultaneously deal one that will stun your opponent, much like a focus attack from Street Fighter 4. I love this addition because, among other things, it gives every character a really strong anti-air option that reduces the need of remembering specific special moves with anti-air properties. Of course, some characters won't ever have to worry about using Shatter Strikes as anti-airs. The other substantial change is a revamp of Max Mode that disappointed me at first, but I've come to appreciate it as a worthwhile trade-off. Max Mode still grants you a limited time buff that increases your damage and lets you use EX specials and super moves without spending actual meter, but it actually costs 2 bars of meter instead of 1. Which means it's much more expensive to convert damage off of pokes in the neutral and really requires you to get in if you want that big time damage. Not only that, but canceling an attack into Max Mode now triggers a shorter version of the buff called Max Mode Quick that has a much smaller meter and doesn't offer the same damage buff that regular Max Mode does. To compensate for this, EX special moves can now be performed outside of Max Mode and only costs a half a bar of meter, which greatly expands every character's options when it comes to getting in and starting their offense. Even though 39 is fewer than the number of characters that KOF 14 launched with, KOF 15's roster is still a very impressive number relative to most fighting games right out of the gate. Newcomers to the series include Dolores, a psychic who looks like she was plucked straight from Bayonetta and uses sacred dirt to attack her foes, Isla, a stylish young girl who fights with phantom hands that allow her to attack from mid-screen and use some really tricky cross-ups when she rides them towards her opponents, and Cronin, who, let's just be real, is basically Tetsuo from Akira. Apart from those three who are brand new, Shermie and Elizabeth make their return to the roster. Elizabeth was in KOF 13 and only returns after taking just one game off, but Shermie makes her first return to the mainline franchise since 2002. The other 34 have basically been taken from KOF 14 wholesale, with very little changes outside of better looking character models. A handful of characters have gotten new level 3 climax super moves, but many others have all their animations ripped directly from KOF 14, and that's kind of disappointing. Because even though the new models and effects do look great, they're just a fresh coat of paint on animations that are now 6 years old. While King of Fighters 15 is certainly a modern-looking KOF game, it still feels left woefully in the past when it comes to its modes. Its tutorial does the bare minimum of teaching you its mechanics without going any further into conveying when or why you should use things like a max mode cancel. Its story mode is the same archaic style of arcade mode that just has you fighting a series of uncontextualized battles that culminates in an unfairly balanced final boss fight, with the only reward being an unvoiced ending cinematic with static pictures and text boxes. And its mission mode only offers 5 combos per character. As far as single player content goes, that's all there is to it, with games like Mortal Kombat 11, Guilty Gear Strive, and even fighters on the indie scene like Them's Fightin' Herds, all raising the bar both in terms of how they introduce new players to their mechanics and their single player story modes. King of Fighters 15 feels utterly bare bones by comparison. Fortunately, it makes up in the area that matters the most to the fighting game community. Excellent online fighting. Its rollback netcode is fantastic. It's super easy to set up a private lobby with queues, spectators, and customizable rules. There's an online training space where you can practice with a friend. You can search replays by character to study up on a matchup. And there are both ranked and casual playlists for matchmaking. Of course, this is going off my pre-launch experience playing against other journalists and content creators, but even in matches against people who were across the country, performance has been consistently smooth. King of Fighters 15 is not the most ambitious or revolutionary fighting game to come out in recent years, but what few changes have been made to distinguish it from its predecessor are done well. It's a significant step up over KOF 14 in terms of its detailed character models, there are a handful of smart adjustments to its fighting mechanics that give you more options than ever before, and its large roster of 39 characters features a wide variety of different character archetypes to choose from. It's disappointing that SNK still hasn't figured out how to provide value for those looking for single-player content, or a way to learn how to play better using the actual tools provided by the tutorial modes, but those shortcomings are easy to overlook in the face of its fantastic netcode and simple, but effective online modes. For more King of Fighters 15, check out our video of all the climax super moves in the game. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.